seconds. 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All systems here at Alpha Control are green and go. The trajectory now profiles properly. The spaceship is climbing correctly to plan. It is now passing the point of maximum dynamic pressure. If it holds its present attitude, it will reach perfect orbit. The fantastic acceleration needed to break out of the Earth's gravity has apparently not affected the well-being of our space travelers.
Welcome to Studio 100. We're outside NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration Office building here on the shores of Lake Washington in Seattle. An interesting backdrop for today's show, which covers the subject of Lost in Space. Lost in Space was begun in 1964 by a man named Irwin Allen, who would later become known as the master of disaster for such movies as Towering Inferno, Poseidon Adventure, and Beyond the Poseidon Adventure. Late in the summer, early in the fall, Irwin decided to play off his success with Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. He decided instead of going under the ocean, he was going to go out to the farthest reaches of space. He began designing a show concerning the first of what was to be 10,000 families a year heading towards the stars. Their destination, one of the planets circling the star sun Alpha Centauri. The family's name was Robinson. There was John Robinson, who was a professor in astrophysics. Maureen Robinson, his wife, an astrobiologist. There was also their oldest daughter, Judy, their second child, Penny, and their youngest child, Will, the only boy. Saying that the last member of the crew, official crew, was Major Don West, an Air Force pilot, trained at Alpha Control to be the pilot of the spaceship Jupiter 2, which would be the first spaceship to the stars. October 16th, 1997, 8:30 in the evening. That's what time the launch was to take place, or will take place, as the case may be. Something went wrong. There was a spy, saboteur, a plant, Zachary Smith. He had been well involved for many, many years with the Alpha Control project, the Jupiter colonization mission, and the Robinson family. He had been their trainer, their mentor, their doctor for quite some time. He was also an agent for a power known only as Aeolus 14 Umbra. Was this a foreign nation? Was it a race of aliens from outer space? This was never clearly established. So, where was I? Zachary Smith, the saboteur. He was sent on board to reprogram the environmental control robot system so that 8 hours after launch, the robot would awaken from its electronic sleep and run amok aboard the ship, destroying several key systems, which in turn would throw the ship off of course and eventually lead to its destruction. Well, something went wrong. Things didn't go the way they were planned, as usual. Zachary Smith ended up trapped aboard the Jupiter 2 just before launch. Well, we now have 7 passengers aboard the Jupiter 2. Because of Zachary's weight, the flight path of the Jupiter 2, which had been carefully programmed into the onboard navigation system, calculated to the ounce, was thrown completely off whack. The Jupiter encountered an uncharted meteor shower, asteroid belt, whatever you'd like to call it, and because of Zachary's added weight, the computer wasn't able to compensate in time to save the ship from heading headlong through the asteroid belt. So, what happened was, Zachary ended up waking up Don West. West was able to pull the ship out of the asteroid belt and get it back on an even keel to stabilize it. Because of the accident, the ship was hopelessly lost in space. No idea where they were, no idea how to get back where they'd come from. Well, that was the premise for what would turn into 3 years of space fantasy, fun, adventure, farce, and, well, just all-around fun.
This historic flight, preceded by nearly a decade of intensive research and preparation, has been shrouded by the most rigorous security precautions. Other nations, in even more desperate need for breathing room on our critically crowded planet, are racing the United States in this project. Countries that would go to any lengths of sabotage.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the fun.
1. All systems go.
Hold your tongue, you bumptious blackguard. He was extremely rude to me. You garrulous gargoyle. It's all your fault. Go away! Don't touch me, you ungrateful underling! Oh, movie! You are a ninny.
Dr. Smith called me a tin-plated tattletale.
If you quote me, quote accurately, booby. That is not what I said.
Dr. Smith, why don't you just knock it off and act your age?
Don't get fresh with me, punk.
So, what was it about the show that endeared so many people to it for 3 years? Well, some people say it was the family plot. It was America's first family in space, literally, still is, even though they were fictional. It could also have been the robot. Lots of kids love that robot, just because it looked so futuristic. It looked futuristic, it sounded futuristic. It also had a little boy for a best friend, or the little boy had it for a best friend. Whatever the quality of the show that endeared people to it, it did last. It still lasts. We've just passed its 25th anniversary, and there's still a good, strong fan drawing for the show.
This most delicate, yet most colossal of instruments makes possible man's thrust into deep space, and will, in approximately 5 minutes, set out on its quest for a new world.
For myself, the thing that attracted me the most to the show, I suppose, was the Jupiter 2 itself. The spaceship stood a full 2 stories tall, according to the first episode. It was a wonderful contrivance. Technically, it was perfect. It was the most advanced thing to ever be built, ever envisioned by the mind of man. It had full living quarters, full galley. It had a drive system that would take the ship to the stars. It was an incredible piece of work. Most of the shots you see of the ship were probably of a model not too much bigger than this. So, 2 full stories. Ship to the stars. A house all inside itself. Jupiter 2 was many things. Many things. Including, in this instance, an extra piece of baggage. So, where does this leave us? Well, let's recap the subjects we've covered. Who they were, where they came from, why so many people enjoyed watching the show, some of the technical information that went into the making of the show. Who was inside that robot suit? Was there anybody inside that robot suit? So how many people actually still follow the show faithfully? Besides myself, that is. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here in front of this camera. Well, as we sit here on the shores of Lake Washington, we think back to 1965, September 22nd, 7:30 in the evening, CBS television, Channel 7 here locally. What were you doing? I know what I was doing. I was glued to my television set with my new best friend, who was about 6'3" and made of metal. What do I think killed Lost in Space in the end? The budget. Really? Yeah. That's how Lost in Space ended. Again. Yeah, that's how Lost in Space ended. CBS said cut your budget, and Irwin said no, and CBS said cut your budget, and Irwin said no, and CBS said goodbye, and Irwin said said, okay. So basically, that's what it boils down to. It's not exactly the way it happened.
Consider this. How many people do you think have been involved with Lost in Space Phenomena since it started? Probably a lot.
Thousands, tens of thousands.
A lot more than people would realize.
Oh yeah, I would say so. I mean, all the way from the production people on up through the syndication people that keep the show, you know, selling out to independent channels and keeping it on the air. So, not to mention the fans. I mean, the fans are a big shtick. I mean, otherwise they wouldn't keep publishing that comic book and have gone into a second year. Yay! Thank you, Innovation.
How many seasons was it on the air?
3, from 1965 to 1968. The pilot was originally shot in late 64. Actually, it was holiday, Christmas time, 1964-65 when they shot the pilot.
Who was the producer?
Irwin Allen.
Of what fame?
Of what fame? My God, he did Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, both on both screens, large and small. He had done several movies. He did the oh God, what is the name of that? Lost World. He directed that, or produced, wrote, directed the whole 9 yards, what Irwin usually did back in those days. So, I mean, he had the same production crew with him for years. People like Paul Zastupnovich, sorry, Paul, I can't say your name, Paul Zastupnovich, and other people like William Krieber, Robert Kinoshita after 1965, Robert Kinoshita being the same Robert Kinoshita that worked on Forbidden Planet in 1953, 54, blah, 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 who did a lot of the majority of the design work for the show. And he, by the way, did the majority of the design work for Forbidden Planet. In fact, he did it all, right down to the Krell design, or the Krell machinery and such that were animated later. They were very nice. They were very nice. So.
Blew me away, child.
Yeah, me too. Robert was pretty cool.
Thinking of the references with this show and what all it's tied into in a lot of different ways.
Right.
And Paul Masterman, a little bit, in a lot of different areas. The people that worked on it and the other shows they worked on, the plot, the other shows that were similar, the progression from, the shows in the 50s.
Well, I'm only really familiar with, as far as the production crew goes, I'm only really familiar with the people that worked on the pieces of the production that I'm interested in, the special effects, the set direction, the design work, that kind of thing. So, and to a small point, the cinematographer at the beginning.
What's the progression, though? I mean, we started out in the 50s with,
I see.
And then Lost in Space, next was like Star Trek?
No, because, I mean, there was, went probably from the big screen Forbidden Planet, to the small screen, but I mean, there were tons of things in the 50s. There was Tom Corbett's Space Cadet, there was a 50s Flash Gordon TV show, late 50s, early 60s, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits.
Superman, you have to throw in there because he came from another planet.
Superman, but he didn't really deal with anything science fiction-y so much. There was a little bit of fantasy in there, but
it was fantasy, and it was technically oriented in a lot of ways.
That's true. At times. Like, what was it, the 2-part episode? Actually, it was a feature that they had done for a theater, and it was made into a 2-part episode,
In fact,
the Mole Men.
Superman was kind of a precursor of Mr. Spock.
It was done in black and white, later reshot in color.
Has his stuff together. Think about that for a second.
Could be.
Spock was kind of a Superman. He could drop people like
Could
that.
be.
He could read minds. He was super strong, kind of.
Couldn't fly and see through walls.
Couldn't fly and see through walls. Well, he does fly in Star Trek 4, 5.
Good point. 5. Yeah. Anyway.
So, we got these shows from the 50s, Tom Corbett, Flash Gordon, solid shows.
There were others.
Space is
Men in Space was 60s.
Technical,
Yeah.
real,
Actually, I believe it started in 59.
kind of an astronaut soap opera or something that...
Yeah, but it was good. It was
Sparking the
good,
interest.
solid. That was
We were talking
science
about space
fact,
travel,
and that was
Sputnik,
almost
all
better. Well, that was, yeah, but Man in Space was science fact. That was almost better than, or it's based on science fact, which was almost better than science fiction. So, and if you think about it, at the time, we really didn't have any real science fiction on TV. You know, because like things like Tom Corbett and such were, they were, oh, I don't know, were geared more towards children for entertainment, and so there was, you know, it was pretty tongue-in-cheek kind of, you know, humorous without being silly, and puts it into kind of a different genre. But I mean, even Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, they were at times science fiction, but a lot of times science fantasy, which is what both Lost in Space and Star Trek afterward turned into. So, the Star Trek.
Yeah.
Why? Because I said something about Star Trek, like the fact that
Fantasy?
well, yeah, it deviated away from science fiction a lot. In fact, it went too far away from it at times, which is, I think, why it failed originally.
All right, let's talk about Lost
It was
in Space
canceled
and science
twice.
fantasy for a minute.
That was total science fantasy, and they advertised it as science fantasy.
Is that what irritated some people about it?
No, I think what irritated some people about it was because after a point it was not just science fantasy, it was ridiculous. You know, I mean, it had crossed over into the absurd. They had gone from humorous to compete with Batman into,
Was Batman
you
on
know,
at the same time?
it started during Lost in Space, the second year, 1966.
That's interesting.
And it was the camp aspect of Batman that pushed Lost in Space over the edge.
So it wasn't the same producers, though?
No.
Different channels?
What? Same studios, 20th Century Fox Television, but different networks, yeah. Yeah, ABC carried Batman, CBS carried Lost in Space.
What was channel NBC doing?
NBC, sitting around with their finger in the air wondering why they didn't buy Lost in Space the first time around. But, so they bought Star Trek instead.
They were offered Lost in Space?
Oh yeah, everybody was offered Lost in Space. NBC
down.
passed it up, yeah.
But then got Star Trek.
But, yeah, later. That was 2 years later.
Why is that?
Yep. Yep. So, but
they
then
cut Star Trek.
Star
after
Trek was,
BBC?
well, nobody bought Star Trek at first because it was thought to be too cerebral for, you know, you had to think too much when you watched it. Nobody will watch it. They have to think.
You know, Roddenberry's already had his own show.
Oh, I know.
Shows.
Yeah.
And he deserved them.
Yep. That's
The
true.
Wagon Train to the Stars did good.
Wagon Train to the Stars. That's a good reference. I like that. Right. We miss you, Gene. So,
That was his reference.
yeah.
Okay, what deep down inside you did Lost in Space mean? Seems to have meant a lot. It stayed with you all these years. When? It was back in the 60s.
This is what year?
Oh,
What-
Lord. 65, 66.
How old were you?
Ooh, 4 or 5.
Really?
Yeah.
And it was quite an impact on you.
No, I mostly remember it being fun. So I just remember it being fun. I remember the later episodes, the second and third season, more than the black and white the first season. I probably at that age I just wasn't attracted to it till it went to color. But then when I did see the original black and white episodes, it was that was a show. So it was fun. I mean, that's why I read the comics that I read or watch the television that I watch. It's because it's fun. There's an entertainment value to it. It doesn't have to be exactly totally accurate or politically correct or anything like that for it to be entertaining.
Can you really
Just got to be fun.
Can you really remember what you felt? Something.
Yeah, I want to fly on that ship.
Your motivation.
I want to. Yeah, that was it. I wanted to be on that spaceship, the Jupiter 2. It was, in a way, it was very realistic looking because it was based in the science fact of the time. It was believable to me. the Jupiter 2 is my main draw to the show, you could say. That's what I enjoy the most about it. The machine. Yeah.
So you were kind of the ghost in the machine. In your head, you were projecting yourself into that every week. That was the thing that just really drew you
Yeah.
to watch the show.
Yeah. I felt like I could stand on that deck and look out the viewport and go, yeah, this is fun. So,
I had a little different view. I was a little bit older.
mm-hmm.
Vietnam was going on at the time.
Oh,
And for me, it was pure escape. I want to get on that and get
go,
the heck
yeah.
out of here.
Yeah, I have the same feeling now when I watch The Next Generation, for instance. It's like, that's comfortable.
It's presumed to be hopelessly lost in space.
You know anything about the writers?
Very little. I know names. I don't know careers.
I would think that would be something.
It's not useless. I mean, there's a bunch of writers. Simon Winselberg, which wasn't his real name, and his real name escapes me, but that wasn't it. And Irwin Allen wrote the pilot and parts of the first episode, and there was Peter Packer. He wrote the most. Directors, Don Richardson. Who was it? Directed that wonderful Antimatter Man in the third season. Oh, I can't remember his name. He was wonderful. He was Austrian. He used to run around the set and scream in this funny little accent.
You gotta look it up.
Yeah.
Good.
Absolutely
Who was the guy
nothing.
you were trying to think of?
Sobey Martin.
And he was a director for
Oh, geez.
how many
geez.
episodes?
Oh, I don't know exactly how many episodes. He did several in the first season and one memorable one in the third season called Antimatter Man. That was pretty good. He did the first season. My favorite episode that he did the first season was called The Sky is Falling. It had Don Matheson as the guest star, and he later played the character Mark in Land of the Giants. So another Irwin Allen production in association with 20th Century Fox.
In fact, there was some intermingling of like keeping the budget down as far as the promos for these shows, using a little Lost in Space, Land of the Giants.
Oh, the presentation film. Yeah.
We have some shots of that.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Yeah. The presentation film. That was kind of fun. It was basically a semi-animated mess, but no, it was fun. It used a lot of the Jupiter 2, as a matter of fact.
1967, the year of the Giants. The newest concept in incredible entertainment. Infraspace suborbital passenger flight 703, Los Angeles to London in 45 minutes. World beyond any conceivable nightmare.
Interesting, you said after it was over at the end of that piece, Don Matheson, not playing Mark per se, but Don Matheson did the outro for that little presentation film. And it was great. They had a great scene with him on a giant set, the cat. It was fun.
Oh, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, you have seen that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fun.
you've seen that. Gadget?
Yeah, the flying thing, the chariot, the
Gadget?
laser guns, the force field.
Yeah.
Those are the things that really fascinated me. Yeah, the ship was really cool. Of course, it
That's
was the
true.
coolest.
Yeah.
But this other stuff was the force field. I thought that was force field.
Did you? Yeah.
Oh, that was the hottest thing you're securing.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a really hot scene in one of the early episodes. It's Island in the Sky, I believe. Or, pardon me, There Were Giants in the Earth. And it's great. It's where they first set up the force field outside, the portable force field projector outside the ship. And Don tests it with a laser gun. man. He fires into the air first, and then he turns and fires right at the family. It's really good.
I remember that.
Yeah. Don's testing of the laser, it was actually very military, so it kind of, in a way, fit with his character, seeing how he's supposed to be a major. So.
Okay, I've got a question. How did they fit Chariot into the Jupiter 2? Because there was no way
Well, I suppose it would be a
it would
point of
fit.
view question. No, it had to be assembled.
Oh, that's right. They did say that.
Yeah. It didn't come complete or anything.
How did they fit the Jupiter 2 into the Chariot? Now that's a good
That's a
question.
good question. Another good question. Where the devil did the space pod come from? And where was it the first 2 seasons?
I just assumed it was just something locked away that they, the ejects. Most ships have
Well, they
kind of
used
an
that.
escape
They
pod.
used that space in the ship for other things.
Okay. John, why couldn't they just let Dr. Smith drop dead? Don could kill him. He could just walk up quietly behind him and whack him in the head. He always wanted to shoot him or something.
Because Jonathan Harris had a contract.
That's a very good reason.
Simple answer. Actually, Dr. Smith was one of the favorite parts of the show, along with Will and the robot. That was the main reason, because of Smith's popularity.
One thing that always bothered me about that show, in the opening titles, was that Dr. Smith was always a special guest star, and I hated his guts.
That was something they did. Jonathan Harris was the last person to be added to the cast, so technically his name should be last. But to set him up, it was Jonathan's idea, actually, so it's said that he and Irwin were talking about it one day, and Jonathan said, well, why don't we do this? And Irwin said, sure, why not? In 3 years, he was a special guest star. He was the only actor appearing on a regular series that was a special guest star.
For 3 years.
For 3 years running.
What a guy.
Yep. Had his own show, and he was a special guest star.
One of the things that kept me watching that show was simply, maybe he'll die this time. On again, because he is a special
I think
guest star.
everybody did that a few times,
I'll watch the
except
show.
the die-hard Dr. Smith fans.
Now that's an interesting subject. You're telling me that there are die-hard Dr. Smith fans?
Oh, I'm sure there are. There must be. And there's die-hard fans of every character of the show.
How would you be a fan of Dr. Smith? I don't understand how that could be.
Just because he was so goofy and stupid. He made you laugh.
He was
I'm
very
sorry,
likable.
Jonathan, I don't mean anything by saying Dr. Smith was stupid, but he was.
He was very likable at times.
Yeah, at times he really was, and at times you really wanted to hate his guts, because he really was nasty, especially in the early days. He was the villain, and he wanted to kill these people. So,
And he tried to kill the Robinsons many times.
more than once. In the early days. Later, it was his motivations changed, and it was his greed and self-preservation that kicked in. That self-preservation was part of it at the beginning also.
Tell me the theory about his his mind snapping.
His mind
That
snapping?
he
Oh, there's
realized
this...
he took off from the planet.
The theory in fandom that the reason he became the way he did in the series, a little off, was because of the fact that he wasn't in stasis during launch, and they used 100% power during launch, and the anti-grav units in the electromagnetic fields, or whatever you want to call them, generated by the anti-grav drive of the ship, twisted his cork, so to speak. It was a slow deterioration. It just, I would assume set up some kind of domino effect in his synapses, and they just slowly changed.
What about the theory that the show came from his journal and therefore had all his sleight of hand and his filtered...
No,
view
not
on the
his
way-
journal. It was Penny's journal, and that's something that Innovation Comics touched on in I believe it was issue 5 of their comic book series recently. They put forth the idea that the campiness of the show and the humor of the show came from the idea that it was Penny's journals that we were reading, her diary, so to speak, that we were seeing stories out of when we saw later episodes of the series, whereas the early episodes, the black and white ones mostly, would have been more John's journals than anything.
That would certainly explain what you were saying.
Yeah.
Why it seems so ridiculous. How about a theory that maybe she was mentally deteriorating?
I don't think so. No. No. Sometimes I can't stand Dr. Smith for the same reasons everybody else can't stand Dr. Smith, so I probably don't need to go into that. But personally, I like Jonathan Harris as an actor. He was a wonderful actor. I saw him in other things. And with Michael Rainey, pardon?
Botany Bay, he was great.
It's Botany Bay, with Michael Rainey in The Third Man, he was great in there. That was TV, not movies, so you know, he was good. There was a Twilight Zone I remember that he was especially wicked in too. So
I always liked that.
that's a loaded question.
Give me justification for why they should be a favorite character.
Well, two-part answer. When I was a kid, and we're talking 67, 68, that was when the third season was originally on, excuse me, I had the biggest crush on Penny Robinson in the whole world. Angela Cartwright. She had the most beautiful hair I'd ever seen in my life, and I was just like, you know, and which is really humorous if you think about it. But overall, I would say, God, my favorite character would have to be the ship, the Jupiter 2. I mean, if you can call it a character. It's not a character, but that is what holds me to that show. I love that ship for some reason.
What does Lost in Space mean to you now?
Oh, I suppose quite a few things. It's still fun. It's a part of my childhood. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my whole life. It's always been there. Kind of like it's that one childhood constant that I have that's gone on with me to adulthood. So I don't know. It's at the same time there's always the aspect of the Jupiter 2. So in a way, I suppose it's a dream at the same time.
Why are you attracted to this?
Attracted to?
Yeah, what's the thread that connects you to that child that watched you so fascinated way back a long time ago to the adult now with the child inside you now?
Oh, probably just my inherent need to know what's out there. I've always wanted to know what's out there. Space travel's always been a fascination of mine. So if I had had the drive and determination at a younger age that I ran into as an adult, I probably would have gone into a career saying, I'm not going to say astronaut, but I mean, every kid my age at that time wanted to be an astronaut, so, you know, literally speaking, I suppose that would be it. I wanted to be an astronaut. So.
Still to deal with it?
Yeah, in ways. I'm already dealing with it, you know, as now in other ways. I'm not quite so directly, but I follow and support the space program, that kind of thing.
Nowadays, we know a little too much about the dark, horrible, possible side of space travel.
Well, that's true.
We've got our Darth Vaders, we've got our aliens, you know.
We have our predators. Yeah. We have, yeah.
I remember, to get off the subject briefly, E.T., when it came out, I loved that. No, Close Encounters. Close Encounters came out. It was such a revelation, suddenly, that they're not bug-eyed monsters. There's no Fems in this. It's nice people out there.
Right.
And they're just hanging out.
Right.
They're even kind of cute
They're
and fun to play with.
our fellow citizens of the galaxy.
Yeah, it's like enough of this horror, the terrible, you know,
Creature from outer space.
a lot of Lost in Space was that.
Oh yeah, quite a bit.
After the Robinsons, but the nice thing was once in a while, the Robinsons were the ones that screwed up, that pissed the monster off in the first place.
That's true. That's true.
So it's like the number
of course, it was usually used to Dr. Smith, but.
True. It's not just the monsters are monsters. It's that they're just people, and normal people turn into monsters when you mess with their environment too sometimes.
Yeah. Nice analogy there. My least favorite character and what's my justification? Oh boy. I can give you a couple of parts on that one too. Just because. Judy, because they never did anything with her. You know, feel sorry for Marta. You know. Yeah, and that's a. Yeah, that was a shame. You know, because she was. Yeah, because her character, Judy Robinson, the way they originally created her, she was a talented person. I mean, she quote unquote gave up a outstanding career in musical comedy, or I believe it was, and that would have been fun. She also, it was stated somewhere that I read that she, during their training, she had excelled out of the whole group, all 7 people, or 6 people, excuse me. She was the one that excelled at spacewalking, so that was kind of curious. And because if you notice, there was one of the early episodes. It's like I believe the trailer in between Reluctant Stowaway and the Derelict, first and second episodes. She's like pumped to go out and try and help her dad. She's like, "Let me go. I know I can do it," kind of thing. And so, you know, it was really fun. But they never did anything with it. There was one good episode I remember. It's called Attack of the Monster Plants, first season, and it's about these giant cyclamen plants, and they can duplicate things exactly. And they duplicated Judy. And that was kind of fun. She kind of got to play and be an evil bitch nasty Judy. And so, would there be a train whistle there? Anyway, an evil bitch nasty Judy, and it was kind of fun. That was about the only time I ever saw her really stretch on the show. So I wish they'd done more with her. But then also at the same time, I can't stand Dr. Smith for the same reasons everybody else can't stand Dr. Smith. So I probably don't need to go into that. But personally, I like Jonathan Harris as an actor. He was a wonderful actor. I saw him in other things. And with Michael Rainey, pardon?
Botany Bay was great.
It's Botany Bay with Michael Rainey in The Third Man. He was great in there. That was TV, not movies. So you know, he was good. There was a Twilight Zone I remember that he was especially wicked in too. So
I always liked the particular reference that he was in Botany Bay, and then Botany Bay was in Star Trek, the Khan thing.
Oh, that was kind of fun, yeah.
And he was in Lost in Space, and it was just kind of, what's the best episode?
Personal opinion or
Well,
general
I'll get it
opinion?
quick. What's the best episode?
The Derelict,
Which one was that?
first season, second episode.
Why?
Why? Many reasons. It was a well done script. I mean, the Jupiter 2 party encountered another group of colonists. The Derelict was basically a huge colony vessel. So that's why I believe it was even stated somewhere in the episode. They went, you know, they found out it was a colonization ship, and they were on their way to somewhere. You know, and they were in hibernation, and of course they got woke up. But it was wonderful, and also the special effects. I mean, some of the best special effects for TV ever done. I mean, they still stand up today, you know, against things.
Who did the special effects?
L.B. Abbott and his crew.
What else has he done?
He won the Academy Award in 1960 for 61. He won it for Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea.
The movie?
Yeah. So written, produced, directed by the big IA. So Irwin Allen.
Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea was Walter Pidgeon.
Right. Walter
Peter
Pidgeon,
Lorre,
and Peter
Barbara
Lorre,
Eden.
Barbara Eden. Yeah.
Did the show win any awards or anything?
No,
We'll cut that.
definitely. No, not that I remember. Genre?
The show hit a lot of different genres. We had cowboys, which were not. We
That's
had,
true.
What?
Vikings and Norse gods.
God.
Sentient
superior
plant.
beings, sentient plant.
Kind of. Sorry, guys, you blew it on that one.
Plant.
Dr. Smith was always a sentient plant, yes.
Was
But
actually, did we turn into a plant once?
stalk of celery, a giant stalk of celery. Well, that's what he looked like anyway.
Stupid show.
That episode is considered by the majority to be the worst.
Which one is that?
Great Vegetable Rebellion, which really originally it had a really cool script because it was the carrot was Tybo, wasn't the carrot. The other gentleman with the purple skin, Willoughby, was originally a llama, a real, purple four-legged fuzzy llama. Star Trek is starting in 3 minutes.
No way.
Yeah, way.
Well, I guess that's about it then.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Good luck.
Thanks.
I hope you make it out there sometime.
So do I.
Maybe we'll run into each other.
That's a possibility.
Okay, dude. Now I gotta say these are done.
Yeah.
Let's put that back.
Let's turn Star Trek on. So, we hope you've had a good time for the last, half an hour or so. The Robinson family sure had a good time for 3 years lost in space. And as far as I know, they're still out there somewhere. So, have a good time, and join us here again next time on Studio 100. Thanks for watching.
Warning! Danger! Danger, Will Robinson! Warning!
Wait, hold. Here's a few more things to remember. Things that you may have, or may have seen, or may have had when you were younger.
Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air.